Hey, what's up? Good morning, naughty community. You're back over here at My Naughty Hobby with Amber for another easy to follow crochet tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do the Raaen Stitch sequence. You've probably seen it on my stories as I have been showing you updated pictures, and today is the day that I will be showing you how to work this out. How you can incorporate it into shawl patterns or a blanket of your own. This is actually a baby blanket that I do have complete now. Here is, let's see if I can show you the border that I did. I did a very simple border with single crochets, and then I also did a row of just double crochets. Hi Yashi, hope I said your name right there. Put my little tag. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to be using a 4.5 millimeter hook and some worsted weight yarn. I think I'm using a little bit of leftover Raaen Simply Soft. You can use whatever size hook and yarn that you have available for you or have available to you. And I did also write out the written instructions, which after we're all finished up here, I will post this in the comments of this post if you prefer a written pattern. I do find that it's easier to show and teach you guys than to write them out when you're doing a repeat sequence. But I know some people like written, so we'll kind of be referencing that throughout this tutorial as well. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll take a look at our written instruction here. In order for this pattern to work up correctly, we're going to be working in multiples of 12 plus 1, which means your foundation row has to have a multiple of 12 plus 1 extra stitch. Since we're going to be working just a single crochet foundation row though, we're going to start with a chain 26, and that's because we needed a turn chain. So not counting that turn chain, we will have a multiple of 12 plus 1. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Good morning, Jacqueline. Hi, Gloria. And for those of you who might just be jumping on, we are doing the Raaen Stitch sequence. And this blanket that I created is actually a baby blanket for some friends who are due within the next couple of weeks. Let's see where I am with the camera here. There's 20. We have 6 more to go if you're following along. 4, 5, and 6. All right, now in our second chain from our hook, so this stitch right here, count 1, 2, we're going to do a single crochet in that first chain and into each of our chains across. So at the end of this row, we should have a total of 25 single crochets. Good morning, Julia. Hi, Karen. Happy to see some of my regulars jumping on this morning. You guys, this morning when I went out on my porch and had coffee, we had a feel of 22 degrees here in North Dakota. When I walked my boys to the bus stop, it was like 28 degrees with a real feel of just, you know, shouldn't be that cold yet. That is what I'm getting at. anybody else experience, anybody in Wyoming or Colorado where they are like getting dumped on right now. The town that I'm originally from in Wyoming, I think, has gotten like 6 or 7 inches. Good morning, Barbara, and welcome. I'm glad that you're here. If you love crochet and love learning new techniques, you've definitely found yourself in the, I guess, the naughtiest corner on Facebook. All right, now that we're just about done with this foundation row with our 25 stitches, we're not going to chain. Should just be looking like this. We're going to turn our work and let's consult our written pattern. So we've already done row 1, row 2. We're doing a standing double crochet, double crocheting in the next 2 stitches. And then I'm going to talk about this written portion, but it's going to be chain 1, skip 3, 5 double crochet, shell in the next, chain 1, skip 3, double crochet in the next 5 stitches. So I'm hoping by reading the written instruction out loud that if there's any of you out there who don't know how to read a pattern, that you're feeling a little bit more encouraged to try. When you can see them on paper and then see them worked, you know, it just is like double confirming, I guess. So we didn't do any chains into our first stitch here. We work a standing double crochet, which is just a single crochet with 1 chain on the top. That's an alternative to chaining and turning. Now we're going to double crochet into our next 2 stitches. Should look like this so far. We're going to chain 1 and skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. So into that 4th one, we're going to do a 5 double crochet shell. So that's just 5 individual crochets all into the same stitch to give the appearance of a shell. There's the 5th. Now you're going to chain 1. We're going to skip 3 more. So 1, 2, 3. Into that 4th or the next stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. And then 4 more double crochets. Chain 1. Now we're going to do another shell, where you're going to skip the next 3 stitches, do your shell in the next, one more. And when you come to the end of your row, we're going to skip 3, and then we want our end to always match our beginning. We started with 3 double crochets, well, the standing double crochet and then the 2. So we did our chain 1, skipping 3, and then a double crochet into each of the last 3 stitches. All right, should be looking like this. Go ahead and turn your work. Now every single row that we work, except for when you do the border, is always going to start with that standing double crochet and then a double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. It'll start with the 3 double crochets and it will also end. It's a really easy pattern to memorize. So let's go ahead. I did a chain 1 there. Sorry for like doing it rogue style, but I wanted to bring up our written again. Now this is the one that gets super wordy and can be a little confusing, but I'm still going to show you guys. So we just did the standing double crochet and then double crochet into the next 2. We did our chain 1. Now we're going to double crochet into the next stitch and visualize it as the shell. So we'll work a double crochet into the first stitch of the shell. We'll skip the next 2 and then front post treble crochet into the next. We'll chain 1, front post double crochet in the second double crochet of the 5 double crochet shell. I know that's super wordy, so let's go ahead and get that worked out. It's not as difficult as it sounds, but on paper it looks a little aggressive. Am I right? So here's the first double crochet of that 5 double crochet shell. I'm going to do the double crochet. Now a treble stitch, a lot like the double crochet, only instead of yarning over once, you yarn over twice. In the written portion, I say to skip the next 2 stitches. So these are the 2 that we're going to skip. And now we're going to work that front post into what appears to be the 4th double crochet of our shell. So you'll insert your hook from the front to the back and pull up a loop. Should look like this. Yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over one more time and pull through your remaining loops. We're going to chain 1. Now we're going to backtrack a little bit. Yarn over twice, and in that second double crochet of our shell, we're going to do another one of those front posts where you insert your hook from the side, bring your hook through, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through the remaining 2. So it should look like this, and it is going to look a little bit off-centered. That's why, like here, we put our first double crochet in the first stitch. We're always working in groups of 5. So right here, we're going to do another double crochet to kind of complete this little sequence on this row. And as you work rows up, it's going to fall in place as we go along. So that's the most difficult part of this pattern, I would say. From here, we're going to chain 1, skip that chain 1 space, and then work a double crochet in the previous double crochets. That's another thing that won't change about this pattern is these 5, I guess, single double crochets that we have. Always working in groups of 5 with the stitch count. And again, look at it like a shell. the first and last stitch are going to have just single standing double crochets. And you know, I put my finger on the back of that shell to push my stitches out. It makes it easier to work your hook into that space. Make sure you're utilizing your other fingers and that they're also doing their part. And then the double crochet in the last stitch of that shell. See, when you actually see it done, it doesn't look quite as intimidating, but I know when I was a beginner crocheter and I saw some business like this, I was like, oh, forget me on that. Like, I'm not even trying this one out, but have no fear. I am here to help you guys work through the intimidation of written patterns. It'll really, I don't know, expand your opportunity for creating. So I've done my chain 1, and then just like we started with 3 double crochet, we're going to end with 3 double crochet. So that's like one full series of the stitch sequence. I did write it in 4 rows on here because after we've done these like front post treble rows, we're going to be doing the same thing we did, but we no longer have to like skip the 3 stitches because we just have our chain 1 spots now. So nothing's going to be changing for this, just I guess the where you're placing the stitches. So standing double crochet into the next 2, chain 1, and now in that chain 1 space we created from our previous round when we worked those treble stitches, we're going to place 5 double crochets for our next shell. There's 5. Filling it out. I'm going to chain 1 and work those 5 double crochets into the next stitches. I always think of the chains as like my break too. You know, we have these groups and then our shell groups. Always make sure you have the chain no matter which group that you're working with. And I suppose technically I can just do a repeat on my written instruction because we're still skipping over 3 stitches. I just think it's easier to think about skipping over the chain 1 personally. Aw, thanks, Jenny. That was really sweet. She says you're amazing and your tutorials are so helpful. I appreciate that so much. Oh, thanks, Esha. You guys are amazing. And then we've got our 3 double crochets in our last stitches here. Here we go. Just like so. I'll work out one more row with you guys. But it's a very easy pattern to, you know, just have in your mind, where there's not too many steps that you have to remember that require tons of counting. And I always say that it's good to build, you know, learn something new and build on your skill set. Holidays are coming up. And I don't know if any of you guys do like craft shows and craft fairs, stuff like that, but it's always nice to have something new to offer, you know, even just for gifts. So I've done my first post stitch, skipping over the next 2. I really should do a craft fair this year because I just have so much stuff that I've made. It's just finding the time to do something like that. Weekends, you know, when craft fairs usually are usually filled with like kids' activities and different stuff with my kiddos. And I just know my boys would wreak havoc if I tried to get them to sit with me at some kind of a craft show. And real quick too, while I still have you guys on, I think I mentioned this in my last tutorial, but if you're starting out with the foundation row, which this can totally be worked without the row of single crochets, I just found that it's so much easier to put a border, and a lot of people will ask me for borders, that after you get done with your foundation row, that you write down somewhere how many stitches that you have, so you know precisely when you come to the end of your project how many you're going to need, you know, as you work over like these spaces. It's a little bit easier to see just each, you know, chain spot will be 1 stitch, but sometimes it was difficult for me to see that. And I noticed that if I keep my beginning number in mind, when I come to the end of the project, I'm like, oh, I wrote that down, so I know how many I need to evenly create to keep my work square, or, you know, in good shape, so you don't get a Dr. Seuss inspired crochet blanket. Or it's a little wobbly on the top. And to some people, it's not that big of a deal. And so maybe you're not going to put the border on at all, and that's totally fine too. I think there's something kind of nice and almost rustic looking if you leave edges raw, but you know, this is the tutorial for today. If there's any questions, I'm going to hang on for just a couple of minutes. Oh, I could show you. Where did I put? Okay, here's the plaid hats. So last week I posted about the plaid hats that I've designed recently. And this will be a pattern that you guys will be able to purchase. But one of them I'm going to do a live tutorial on. So we have the one that is worked where you create the brim first. So it's worked from the bottom up. Or I have this version where you start at the top of your work and you come down. This is like an adult size, which I'll probably end up doing no matter which one is chose, I will be doing it in adult size. But yeah, which one would you guys like to see done? The one that's done, let's see, I'm going to move this up just a smidge, move my light here so you guys can get a better visual of what they look like. I'd love to hear from you guys if you think that the worked from the top down, which it's the same design, just slightly different, or if you want to learn how to make the brim first and then basically close a different way, obviously, as well. I think I always like to flip it around, like, haven't gotten ready for my day yet. Just enjoying peace without my kiddos here. They're at school. Got these two hats. Please weigh in and let me know which one you would like to see demonstrated, because I feel like plaid really doesn't go out of style in fall. This is a really wild, popular design, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. Would love the one from bottom up. Bottom up, there's a ton from the top. I agree with that. I totally agree, and love to hear back from you guys and what it is you're wanting to learn. From the top down, okay, both of the patterns will be available. Unfortunately, Facebook doesn't allow me to do like polls anymore. I used to be able to like just create a post saying, hey, you know, which one do you guys prefer? They don't allow that anymore. So I might post both of the pictures a little bit later today and see, you know, which ones you guys vote on. I hope that you come back over here to let me know. But that's it for today. Hope you're feeling confident and inspired with this new stitch tutorial. Oh, and real quick, I'll show you the blanket because I'm feeling super proud. This is two skeins of, you know, done in the stitch that I just taught you guys. It's like toddler size blanket. This was so the brand of yarn is Yarn Bee and Rhapsody. Only the color, obviously this isn't the color that I used. I used Ivy League, but Yarn Bee is one of my favoriteest brands. Here I am promoting their work for them. But it is a cotton acrylic blend, and this is a dream to work with. So if you can get your hands on some of this stuff and want to make a toddler blanket of your own, this is two glorious skeins, and I just love the way it turned out. Lightweight, cozy. That's all I got for you guys today. Hope you all have a wonderful week. I'm sure I'll be back with tutorials for you soon, but until then, happy hooking and have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.